We bought ourselves a gem from the salvage auction this morning, a 2018 Jeep Trackhawk with a wide body and quite the interesting life story. A Jeep with a Hellcat engine in it. It sounds like something you'd build in your backyard, but somehow, someway, Jeep did it for us. For years, I've been searching for that perfect Trackhawk to rebuild, so naturally when I saw this one with a few minor dings and dents and an aftermarket wide body kit, when I bought this thing from the auction, there were no pictures under the hood. So I guess I didn't technically know there was an engine in it. I assumed, but luckily when we were getting it off the trailer, you could see there was an engine. And fortunately, it looks like it might have survived. We did get kind of lucky there. This car got hit so hard down here on the driver's corner that I was genuinely concerned that if there was an engine in it, the frame rail might have got pushed into it. But it looks like the intake is the only thing that really got damaged. And I mean, being that it already kind of uninstalled itself, based on the auction pictures, I knew there was some suspension damage. I knew this wheel was trashed. I knew the rear one was towed out like 20 degrees. But then when it showed up on the trailer, this front passenger wheel was flopping all around too, so we've got something going on under there. Not to mention this wide body fender flare was there in the pictures, and well, now it's not. I assume it's somewhere on the highway in between California and here. And then there's the simple fact that this thing just got absolutely racked. This is not a light hit. I'm still going with like a telephone pole. I don't know, there's some blue paint on it, but it got all the way back into the strut tower. It dinged it in there. I'm gonna assume that a lot of this is just shifted around. Yeah, look at that. That whole upper frame rail section is pushed over that way. If there's any bit of silver lining here, it's that this lower frame rail, which is the most important, isn't too far off. It has something broken off it there. We'll see once we start ripping stuff away from it. But this thing is just, man, this side of the car from a body damage standpoint isn't awful.
And probably you got like 2 good wheels, right?
Maybe. Outside of all the damage, I do have to give them a bit of credit. This thing looked sick.
It's awesome.
At one point at least. I mean, we got the color matched wheels, color matched brake calipers, even the light blue. I'm not a fan of that, but on this car, it looks decent.
Somebody definitely loved this thing.
And thanks to one lone picture on Facebook, we know exactly who loved this thing. It was posted by a well-known shop out of Los Angeles called RDB. I gave him a shout, and it turns out it was built for rap legend Offset. Hey. Originally, they had it wrapped very, very orange, but they decided to switch it up, threw on the wide body kit, wrapped it blue. That's the one picture I was able to find by Googling blue wide body Trackhawk. Now, on the inside, it doesn't really get much better. Every single airbag's blown except the seats. At least they survived. I don't know why, but the center console is ripped backwards. Other than those not so minor points, the interior's not in bad shape. And most importantly, of course, it's red, which is always the best color.
10 out of 10. Dude, we're gonna be able to play PS5. Oh, that's sick.
I didn't even notice that.
What? Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, I've never had a car with screens in the headrests. Anyway, I know we just got really sidetracked by a few screens. Well, there's parts, and this is probably much more important than the seats. This was part of the front lip, I assume? Yeah, it had to be. That's destroyed. This is what I was hoping to see. That's the missing one, 100%. Boom, there we go. Okay, so it didn't fly off. It's not on a highway in California. It was just in the back seat the whole time. I probably should have looked there first. This is another piece. This probably, oh, it's for this side. Okay. Yeah, so this goes on the passenger side. We're missing the driver's side version of this though. And then we have the side skirt poking through there too. And more bumper pieces. It does not always work out like this. A lot of times when you see parts missing, they're just gone. In this case though, we've got our wide body side skirt and it doesn't even look damaged. Oh, there's another part of the front lip.
Oh, there we go. Is it? Yes, no, maybe?
Oh, it's missing just a little piece.
Fixable.
All right, see what we're working with here. All right, so that went about there. There we are. A somewhat complete wide body kit. Got a grill, part of the headlight that is missing. Other than that, the trunk's pretty much just full of junk, including this piece piece of what was suspension, but at least we found a couple parts of that wide body kit. The only parts we're really gonna need to replace is that front lip. I'm thinking that maybe we can fix this. It's not really damaged that bad. One other positive about this thing is it has only, okay, one negative before we get to that, the steering. It's not connected at all. Anyway, it only has 19,000 miles on it, which is awesome. Low mileage, cool. But then there's the fact that it doesn't have any keys, so we can't really do anything with it until we figure that out. Oh my God. Yeah, that suspension corner in the trunk, this is where it went. That is rough. We have a spring, oh, an iBox special edition spring just hanging out there. Look at all that. It pulled the lower ball joint out of the control arm. The axles, I don't think there's one axle in this thing that's intact. But we're optimists here, right?
Can we with this?
Well,
did you say that again?
yes, I said we're optimists, Siri. I know it's hard to believe.
Exactly.
Yeah, it has an exhaust on it. So, I mean, really though, there's more good news. Pretty much all the rear suspension is fine. We do have to figure out why that wheel's kicked out. The diff, the drive shaft, the Borla exhaust, that all looks great. Again, this is my first Trackhawk, so correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I believe this is an aftermarket lower diffuser. I know that spoiler, if we can call that piece of spoilers aftermarket as well. So the rear half of this car is really where she shines. I said I wanted a Trackhawk project. We got a Trackhawk project. Yeah, this feels a bit like, ripping off a Band-Aid. I'm not quite sure what we're gonna see under this fender, but I just have a feeling it's not gonna be great, right?
It shouldn't be there.
No, that's not the right place at all for this. Oh my God, we're gonna have to cut it off. That got wedged in, that's crazy. That ain't that bad. Based on what we were seeing up here, I fully anticipated that this apron was going to be damaged much further back, and at least from what I can see right now, it looks straight, which is awesome because it's going to make fixing at least this upper portion a lot easier. I do suspect that things will go downhill from here, but hey, we knew what we're getting ourselves into, right? This is way lighter than I thought it was going to be. I mean, we knew this thing was just flopping around, but this is wildly impressive. Honestly, all things considered, it's impressive that this even stayed attached. We've had it in the past where an entire suspension corner, brake, rotor, the upright, everything will be ripped off a car inside a wheel. It didn't happen here, but it's only hanging on by this upper control arm and I suppose the steering rack. We can finally get our wedged iBox spring out of here too, which looks kind of straight to me. After all that, somehow the brake line and wheel speed sensor stayed on. When stuff's this jacked up, you almost just kind of forget about little rubber hoses and sensors like that. I still don't know how they survived, but hey, I guess it's a good thing, right? It looks like this knuckle, this upright, it survived. There's scrapes, there's scuffs, there's gouges, but it's not broken like the rest of the suspension. Now, would I trust reusing it? I don't know. Probably not if I'm being honest. But the brake caliper, the rotor, all that survived and it's in actually really nice shape. There's barely any lip on it. But as for the rest of the driver's side here, it's not great. Now don't get me wrong, we kind of knew that things weren't going to be great under here, but seeing it, especially from this angle, that's a whole different thing. This upper frame rail section, that is just accordioned like that. This bar that comes down, which connects that piece to the lower frame rail, that is supposed to be right there. It's moved back 8 inches. On the back of the wheel arch, this box section that goes all the way down the side skirt that includes our jack point. I guess the wheel got pushed into that. That's all jacked up, no pun intended. But I think we can kind of just pull this section forward and rework what's already here. That's not that big of a deal. We've got the lower radiator mount, that's destroyed. The upper radiator mount, that's destroyed. The subframe, the engine cradle, you guessed it, destroyed. But all that stuff, they're bolt-on parts. It's really not that big of a deal. The one thing though that does truly worry me about this rebuild, well, outside of the 20 grand we're about to have to spend in parts, is this lower frame rail. It is all kinds of jacked up. It's Z-shaped here, and it's back past the subframe. And if we can't get this frame rail straight, then that's not going to be straight. And if we can't get that straight, then the control arm's not straight, then the wheel's not straight, and the car drives like crap. This whole dented in area there where it looks like the Hawk just, you know, give it a little love tap, that's not supposed to be there. If you look at the passenger side, it is dead flat. There is none of that. There is this area on the back that scared the shit out of me when we pulled the wheel off it. Turns out though, that one's intentional. It's for wheel clearance. There is one thing here though that at the very least is mildly encouraging, and on a car like this, I will take it. This front upper control arm, the points where this mounts, I believe that they are straight. I don't think this shifted around at all. There is this little tab here where I guess the strut probably hit it while it was getting blasted apart. But when I saw all this damage on the front strut tower when we were looking it over outside, I just assumed that the strut tower itself was probably going to be shifted back. And now I'm not so sure. That part that really scared me, this is just a piece that welds on to the strut tower, and if the strut tower didn't move, then that means our front upper control arm, in all likelihood, that's in the right spot. And with that in the right spot, along with this rear subframe pickup point, we at least have something to start building and measuring from. On the passenger side, I'm not going to say things are great, but they're not that bad. The wheel, that's still flopping around. Once again, the lower control arm, that got cooked. And then there's our axle shaft, which is just, you know, shafting all by itself. But when it comes to all the important stuff, at least, we're golden. Even some of the more fragile parts like this ride height sensor, that survived. We've got the oil cooler. These things will snap off and break in half if you look at them the wrong way. This one seems to be okay, though the plastic mounting bracket did break. And then there's another part we really lucked out on. Dodge did us a solid, or maybe Jeep in this case, and mounted the intercooler pump on the passenger side of the car. On the Chargers, the Challengers, they mounted those on the driver's side, and needless to say, if that was the case on Trackhawks too, she would no longer be with us. As long as the engine's all right, as long as it didn't get blasted like most of the rest of this car, it'll be all right. We'll feel good about this whole deal. Now it does, unfortunately, look like up here there's basically nothing that survived. This is the heat exchanger. I mean, that's trashed.
You know what's the good thing about that? You got the perfect excuse to buy go fast part.
I mean, I'm having a hard time arguing with you on that. That is a fact. If it's broke, we don't fix it, we upgrade it.
Definitely.
This next one's the AC condenser slash the transmission cooler. So this one, we're gonna leave it hang just for now. So I do want to try to start this thing. We're gonna need a trans cooler on it so it doesn't spray all the fluid out. I know what you're probably thinking. How are you gonna start it? You said it didn't have keys. Well, since last time, had the boys from Starks come over and make us some keys. Dude, I think we're money. Now you want to drain. We did, to be fair, try to drain all the fluids out of this, but nothing came out. Everything was bone dry. I guess we, had that last little bit you could only get by ripping the freaking radiator out of the car. The radiator fan itself definitely did get pushed back into the engine. One of the blades, that's missing. The housing, that's cracked up too. That doesn't really matter because we're gonna replace it anyway. The engine, it looks like we really, truly lucked out here. Though we can't at all say the same thing about the ABS module. I'll consider ourselves lucky though if the connector itself is in good shape. And it looks like on the chassis, the body side, it is. I think this is all ripped out of the ABS module itself. One thing though that scared me just a little bit, I don't think this engine is perfectly straight. Now that we have everything off the front end, it looks like it's cocked that way just a hair. Given that this subframe's just toasted though, and the engine mount pedestal sits up so high off it, I'm 99% certain that this engine's just sitting crooked because the subframe's all jacked up. One thing though, that I didn't see until we're down here looking at that, is the fact that our steering rack, it is of the two-piece variety. It's not ideal, I do know that much.
No, it's not supposed to do that, dude.
No, it's definitely most certainly not, right?
No.
So, you remember earlier when we spun the steering wheel and it just free-spooled? I guess we know why. Check that out. This is technically the inside of our steering rack. I'm not gonna say it's a good thing because this rack's probably like $600, $700, $800, so that sucks, but sometimes the destruction is just wildly impressive. To be fair, I don't have a clue what's gonna happen here. They never even put power to this thing at the auction, much less tried to start it, given that they didn't have keys. Let's see. I guess we just gotta go for it here. Fingers crossed. It sounds like it wants to start. It's doing everything it should, but it's not actually cranking. Press brake and push button to start. Nada. You hear the fuel pump, you hear pretty much everything else, the gauges sweep, but it is not starting. Huh. So, I'm guessing, based on the fact that Austin just told me the brake lights aren't coming on, that it's something with our brake switch. Maybe it's that damaged ABS module. We can press start all we want, but if the car's not registering that we got the brake pedal down, well, that's gonna be a problem. I'm aware this isn't a pretty sight at all, so it seems like a pretty decent time to tell you about the sponsor of today's video. Guys, meet Junie. We've been spending some time together while she is getting ready to find her forever home. Being a pet parent is not always easy, especially when you're helping a rescue dog adjust. Junie might have had a tough start to life, but now, with the help of Sundays, she's getting the right food to support her health and her happiness, and it's been a total game changer. After all, it's a new year, which means new beginnings, and that includes healthier choices for our pups, whether they've found their forever home or not. Their food's made with 100% human-grade ingredients. Meat, organs, superfoods, air-dried to lock in nutrients and flavor. No artificial preservatives, no synthetics, no garbage. It's just real food that's perfect for pups like Junie. And the best part, it's so easy to serve. No complicated prep or fridge space needed, just scoop and serve. If you're ready to try Sundays for your dog, you can get 50% off your 2-week trial by going to sundaysfordogs.com/scraplife. And if you sign up in January, you'll get a free FI dog collar with GPS tracking. Also, if you happen to be looking for an awesome dog, Junie is still available at Paws and Pistons. She's their longest resident. She's been there 3 months. So if you want an awesome dog to join you in your home, well, here she is. Everything's connected on the body control module. The brake light switch, that's connected. I was kind of thinking we might have saw some kind of weird like security system. People do all kinds of stuff to these to try to get people not to steal them. I don't see anything though. All the wiring looks unmodified. We've already went through all the fuses. Don't know why the brake light isn't coming on, unless it has something to do with all this damaged wiring here. I even tried to plug a Hellcat ABS module into it to see if, I don't know, the brake pedal switch circuit ran through that pump. It didn't do anything, unfortunately. We're gonna try to jump the brake pedal switch and I guess see if this works. I don't know at this point. Anything?
No. Absolutely nothing.
Well, it's not the brake switch itself. On another note, we found something very interesting / sketchy / cool, I guess we'll call it, on the interior, but we'll talk about that once we finish the task at hand here. Which, speaking of, I think we're on to something here. After kind of scratching our heads all day yesterday, I started digging through wiring diagrams last night. Turns out this brake pedal signal, it does run through the ABS module. And while plugging this Hellcat ABS module in was a nice attempt at a quick fix, the pinouts there are completely different. What we really needed was this guy, which is the electrical portion of the ABS module off another Trackhawk. Jesus. There's part of it. Another part. And the last part. Yeah, it's pretty clear now how the other one broke. This upper radiator support, it got bashed right into the side where the electrical connector goes and just broke it in half. Good enough for now. Look at that. Fits perfectly fine when you don't have a jacked up radiator support bashed into it. And while on the harness, our ABS connector does have some damage, the wires that we're looking for, some of these green ones down here, so let's hope that doesn't mess us up any. You feeling lucky this morning?
I think.
You got the golden touch?
It's a Trackhawk, you know?
Hop on in.
Trackhawk position.
So right at home. Real Dodge guy, you know? Jeez. All right, so don't try to crank it. Let's just see if the brake lights work, all right? Hit it. There we are. I've never in my life been so happy to see some brake lights. All right, remember, you're in the driver's seat now. If it don't start, it's on you this time. It ain't me anymore, all right?
This was a setup.
3, 2. Yeah, there we go. There we frickin' go. Yes. Nah, let it run for a second. Why not? It's 20 degrees in this shop this morning. It ain't gonna overheat.
Like the cluster design interior, I kind of like it.
I like it more now that it's running. I wasn't real happy with it yesterday, if I'm being honest. Just out of curiosity here, and put it in gear. Put it in drive, see what happens. It does drive, technically. You're about at the same angle right now, actually.
It's a little off.
So at the very least, one thing we just learned by doing this is that it's not the wheel or the hub that's severely bent, because the wheel itself is still rotating pretty straight. I was expecting it to kind of wobble back and forth, but there's got to be just like a control arm under there or something that's bent. So that might not be that bad of a fix. This, wow. So at the very least, bare minimum, we got a functional engine and a functional transmission, even if most of the stuff attached to the transmission isn't functional.
I told you this was good.
Now I'm hyped up. You might as well cut this thing before you overheat it, pop a head gasket or something, but damn. All right.
We're good, G.
Now before we get into the interior and open that whole can of worms, I do want to see what's going on back here in the rear suspension so we at least know what we're up against. Ah, yes. Of course. The old 4-lug nut special. Yeah, looks about right. At the very least, this thing's not flopping around like the front wheels did, so that's something. Yeah, I think we figured it out here. Let's do a little comparison. This is our passenger side rear suspension. The wheel was straight, everything looks pretty good. And this is our driver side rear suspension. It seems like it might have got the old alignment via curb here. If the wheel hit something on this backside, it would have done exactly this. It would have just kinked up. But as best I could tell, everything else under here is pretty much fine. I was a little worried for this lower control arm, but there is a ball joint down here. So I guess when it hit the curb or whatever it might have hit, it just pivoted on that and only crunched up this one arm. I am going to count us really lucky on this whole rear suspension deal. It seems like we're going to get away with just replacing one little control arm that can't possibly be that much money. And for that matter, honestly, the whole rear half of the car, or the underside, it's all in really decent shape. The gas tanks, a lot of times these will get damaged by the forklifts they use at the salvage auctions. There is, however, a few little dents in these Borla mufflers. You don't, by any chance, know how that could have happened?
I think I know the person who did this, to be honest with you.
I can't see anything, by the way. Alright, now before we get into trying to dismantle this mess of an interior and strip out everything that's wrong with it, check this out. So when I got in it the first time, I thought this was broken. I think I even commented on it that this is all pushed back. Well, it turns out it's on rails. It's made to do this, and it is not from Jeep. At some point, somebody tried their best to install a hidden compartment down here. If you look all the way down there, I know it's hard to see, there's rails just like there would be on a toolbox that allow this to slide back and forth. Realistically, it didn't stay hidden very well, and even if you can manage to get it into the proper closed and latched position, you can still see right here that there's a gap. It's pretty obvious that there's something there, but it's still, I guess, a pretty cool feature. It does seem to be a trend with rapper cars. Last time I looked at a rapper car, Fernando, Lil Durk's armored TRX. That thing had hiding spots everywhere. This one, I guess, is a little less serious, being that it only has the one.
That we know so far.
That's true. Could be more, you never know.
Exactly.
Guess we'll see soon. Just being in a car that has one of these is kind of a funny feeling. Like, what do we even do with it?
This can be your wallet compartment, right? In case you get pulled over, you can be, give me the second, right?
1 second, stealth mode. Next second, got that thing on you.
You know I got it on me.
I know this probably shouldn't come as a surprise, but there's always that little bit of, I don't know if we'll call it worry or excitement. When you're working on a new chassis like this, you kind of don't know what you're getting into, but this thing is Mopar through and through. Everything's pretty much just business as usual until you get to the part, of course, somebody else has already touched. On the bottom of most of our panels, all the little tabs are broken, and then there's, I don't know why they did this, to be honest. In this main center console area, all these clips are supposed to pull just simply up and out. It's supposed to be a really easy removal, but there are just like wood screws, I guess, that are jammed where those tabs are supposed to go. So we basically had to break everything to get it off. I don't know what the logic is there in doing that, but hey. Even down here in the bottom of the cup holder, which is just supposed to pull out with that panel, they jammed a frickin' wood screw on their like 5th attempt at doing so, right through the bottom of the cup holder, so all the tabs on that have now broke. I think this used to be our neutral release for the transmission. Well, it's not connected anymore.
Hey, safety first.
I think it's about to get interesting. We have found some random electronics back here, and they are not factory. There is some janky wiring connected to some random relays down here by the secret compartment. Normally, I wouldn't think twice about this kind of stuff, but given that there's no aftermarket stereo, there was no gauges, no random electronics that would need something like this, this is the random piece that they like hacked up under the center console. This had all those screws into it, and it was held on by these like pieces of sheet metal. I've never seen anything like that in my life. And
what is
freaking towels?
Okay.
So this is the cable.
Is that like a shifter cable? Wow.
Oh, now we know what this is. So this, where'd that cable go? I just assumed, because this is where the neutral release lever is in these cars, that this was that cable and it was locked. This is a freaking window motor. This was inside, if I can get it in the hole.
Wow.
There we go. Took me a second. This was inside here. I just yanked it out thinking it was broken. No, this is a whole setup that I guess really locks this in place. So when I was talking about earlier how this thing wasn't that good of a secret hiding spot, how it didn't really shut that well, I bet that's because we didn't know how to operate this. Once this window motor would have pulled it closed, I bet this thing would have been virtually undetectable. Wow.
That's weird, actually.
I mean, it's cool. I do have to imagine that it was not RDBLA that did this. There is... There's duct tape, the wiring. It looks like they cut this out of an extension cord. They must have done this fast, too. There are metal shavings everywhere down here. They didn't bother to clean it out. That, where they had that window motor slid back into, this is supposed to be an HVAC duct, so we're going to have to probably do something about that. This has made the nicknaming of this car is very easy. I already got it figured out, Fernando. It's no problem.
Oh, my God. Let's
Ready?
hear it.
Ready for this?
Yeah.
That's the Trackhawk. All right.
Oh, that's a good one.
Trackhawk, all right?
With double P, right?
Double P. Sure, double P.
Yeah.
Dude, right in. That's so cool. That's so cool. I don't know if I should think this is cool, but I definitely do. I've never found something to this level. We found all kinds of crazy stuff in cars. Nothing like this. Considering this console is welded in, I think our best bet to remove it is just to, really, really go after it with a breaker bar, right?
You say welded?
Yes, the rails are welded in. We're just gonna... There we are. That close. One secret compartment. This little red plug here, that used to be what you would just pop off and unbolt the center console, and it'd all come out real easy. Obviously, they couldn't have those in there anymore. Wild. Just wild. I think we're clear. Honestly, I don't really know because I haven't done one of these before, but we're rolling with it. It's coming, sort of. So I'll just call it over here.
I thought you said you got
I
it.
said I might have it. Let's be real here. I think we're loose now. I think we got it this time.
Nope.
You notice how everything that's, still connected is on Dot's side.
All right. There are, now that I'm looking, there's at least 3 more things hooked up over here on top of the 5 that he already took apart. And he said this was ready to come out.
Said it was almost ready to come out, right?
Now that I've thoroughly inspected it, we think we've got it this time.
Oh, we're clear.
No, we're not.
All right, I think we got this. Oh, yeah. Flawless removal. So in the grand scheme of things, I am well aware this doesn't matter, given that our dashboard has a massive hole blown in it from the airbag. But this car, it was optioned with pretty much every option you could get on a Trackhawk. While base price on this thing was $86,000, the way they optioned it, it came out to $101,000, including $5,000 for the signature leather interior package. Leather that is now completely shrunk, completely ripped up on a car that's only, what, 6 years old? As cool as it is to have this interior package with the sick door panels and everything, this is surely not going to be cheap to replace. So I'm not thrilled about that. But we will certainly cross that bridge a bit down the road. Now we've stripped the interior of everything we need to replace. The dashboard, all those airbags, the headliner. We got a pretty decent grip on what we need to de-hack, unhack, reverse hack, whatever. Primarily the stuff around the center console. But there is one thing, thankfully, that instead of having to replace, we can send out and have repaired. Our seat belts, they are locked up. If you happen to get into an accident and you're wearing your seatbelt, which you definitely should be, down here inside the retractor, there's some type of mechanism that's gonna blow just like an airbag, but instead of having something come out of it, it just locks up the seatbelt so it holds you in place. With these, we're actually gonna send them out and have these mechanisms. Yeah, you can hear something's not right in there, right? Anyway, we're gonna send these out and have them repaired, which hopefully the end result will be save us a few bucks instead of just buying another set. Needless to say, we got our hands full on this one, but I did just buy something from the salvage auction that I think is gonna make rebuilding this one just a little bit easier. And guys, if you're interested in doing something like this, then here's a video you should check out, which is definitely, most certainly, not just Fernando and I BSing about salvage Hellcats for half an hour, right?
Exactly. Oh. At least she ain't going nowhere.
No, she most certainly would go somewhere.